Hi, first of all, I would like to welcome everyone to join our Vision Youth Parents Workshop on July 25th, 2020. And we are very happy today that we have a representative from Chinese Canadian National Council Social Justice, and also Mary Ng's office, and also DotDotFire to join us for our meeting today. First of all, I'd like to introduce Vision Youth. I'm not sure every one of you know about Vision Youth, so I just want to give a little bit of advertisement. Like, Vision Youth Leadership Program was founded in 2001. The program was developed to complement the regular school academic curriculum to help our youth to develop life skills which will prepare them for a successful and rewarding future. We encourage civic participation and the continued development of physical, social, and leadership skills through a holistic training approach. So we have a lot of outdoors, like we develop some other indoor program as well. And this year, because of COVID-19, we don't have any of the outdoor activities. But this year we developed a new indoor sessions, like there will be 7 indoor sessions for our program, and we will be working with Ryerson University, the social venture stone, and also the Institute for Change Leaders, for like to develop our youth to learn more about the NGOs and also about the social enterprise. So hopefully, like we, with the inspiration from other NGOs like Jack.org or like DotDotFire, all this organization, that we can inspire our youth to work on the social enterprise or to contribute to our community through their study, like to see what kind of need is required in the community. So this is a change for our program this year. Okay, get back to our workshop today. So we have 3 main topics today. So first topic is related to COVID-19. As we all know that there are a lot of racial discriminations that are happening in our community. So Amy Go is the founding president of the Chinese Canadian National Council Social Justice. So actually, the first question for Amy probably is, why social justice? Like, not just the CCNC in the past, but anyway, you can answer that later. So Amy will tell us what we should do and how we can react to those instances, or when things happen to you, so what you should do or how you should react. So the second, or maybe I should introduce the other thing later, or maybe like the second important topic for us today is from Mary Ng's office. Youmy is a representative from the office to tell us more about what kind of program or support the federal government, the Canadian federal government has for our students during the COVID-19. And actually, Youmy, is that only related to COVID-19 or just general program for our students and international students?
I think we're focusing on COVID-19, but if folks have questions about other programs, or we're happy to dive into that a little bit, as well as just ways to get in touch with us.
Okay, that's great. So the other important topic today is related to remote learning, and like we invited DotDotFire to join us today. DotDotFire is a very young startup company from Hong Kong or Singapore, and actually they are started by a whole bunch of young people too, right? Like Franco today, and I think majority of the founding directors are probably under 25 or around that age. So yeah, they are using games to attract our young people, our youth, to to be more interested in studying science or technology or financial literacy and all this. So today they will have a demo for us. And I heard that you guys will have some offer that that probably if somebody want to sign up today, they probably can have a free trial period as well, right, Franco?
Sure, yep.
Oh, okay, so without further ado, I'd like to pass the mic to Amy to talk about how we should react to racial discrimination when this happened to you.
Right. So thank you, Eric. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to our fellow Canadians, of Chinese origin, especially in this time of it's a challenging time for all Asian and Chinese Canadians in light of the pandemic. So I hope that this discussion would advance all of our collaborative understanding and also hopefully it's not the end of our discussion, but actually the beginning of further discussion and exploration of partnerships. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And before I start, I would like to do a land acknowledgement, that we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and it's now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. And I do have a presentation to share. Let's see.
I think you can just share.
Yeah, yes, thank you. So Eric has asked me to talk about specifically how to address racism in schools, or when children or parents encounter situations like this, what should we do? So I've prepared a small presentation, but I think the key is that we will have an opportunity to discuss more through question and answer. What I'm going to do is to introduce very briefly about CCNC and why it's called CCNCSJ, and talk about what we should do to get children ready for school opening, and the importance of connecting with schools, the strategies to address incidents, and talk a little bit about the projects that CCNC is engaging in right now, specifically on a project that actually is to develop tools and resources for children and guardians. So Chinese Canadian National Council for Social Justice is new as an organization. We were incorporated in 2019. However, the people that are involved in CCNCSJ are really not that new. Unfortunately, we are quite old, but we are very happy. Currently, we have some new blood and young people that are involved. So the mission of CCNCSJ is to educate, engage, and advocate for equity and justice for all. In fact, the sort of like the predecessor of CCNCSJ, called Chinese Canadian National Council, the full name for CCNC was actually CCNC for Equality. That's the old CCNC, but the business name, it's shortened to CCNC. But now I think we believe that it is important for us to very clearly state our mandate, state our goal in our name. So that's why we specifically now added social justice to articulate that mission, that goal, so that people, when they come to us, when they work with us, they know what this organization is all about. The people involved in CCNC, SJ, many of them were involved in CCNC prior. CCNC was formed 40 years ago because of the racist portrayal of Chinese Canadians on CTV, a program called W5, and specific segment called Campus Giveaway, where they portray Chinese Canadians as foreigners taking away spaces from Canadian students. And it was a fraudulent, it was a not a mistake. It was actually a deliberate racist portrayal because that portrayal was wrong. In fact, U of T, even 40 years ago, that the school that they were focusing on, the School of Dentistry, the School of Medicine, School of Pharmacy, those schools were in fact almost exclusively for either Canadian residents, that means they are landed immigrants, or citizens. So even up to this day, those schools still take very few foreign students. And in those days, it was even fewer. I think there were like 2 in the whole School of Medicine. And I cannot remember whether there were any in the School of Dentistry or Pharmacy. So because of that racist portrayal that Chinese Canadians, we were seen as foreigners, taking away these valuable spaces, it really rallied the communities, of course, the student leaders, as well as other advocates and leaders such as Dr. Joseph Wong, and to then fight for the apology and retraction from CTV, and then also the formation of CCNC for equality at the time. And throughout the year, CCNC has fought for and actually spoken up against inequalities, against violations of human rights, particularly targeting Chinese Canadians, and successfully worked with many groups to lobby for the redress of head tax and Chinese Exclusion Act. CCNC was the first national group to raise that issue and brought it to a national stage and successfully got the redress in the year 2006. And CCNC for social justice, while relatively new, we came out very early at the beginning of COVID-19 when Canada, at the time, we only had 3 cases in Toronto because we anticipated, and unfortunately, what we said came true, was the rising anti-Asian sentiment. At the time, we already knew that Chinese restaurants were abandoned, people were shunning Toronto Chinatown and other, grocery stores. And of course, we were hearing stories about children being bullied in school, as well as individuals being targeted because of this whole perception that Chinese were responsible for bringing virus to Canada. And so through this last 7 months, CCNC worked with our partners and launched a number of projects. And one of them was to allow the online reporting. And through that tool, this online reporting tool, we have up to now gathered 328 cases. They were reported online. These individual cases either suffered individually online through social media or in person. And the majority of cases were reported or happened in Ontario, but there were definitely cases from Vancouver, from Saskatchewan, from Alberta, as well as Quebec. And we also, I'm sure you have heard, particularly parents here, that the children were being called Corona Girl, don't play with Chinese, they're dirty. All these were already surfacing and becoming prevalent in our school playground, in our classrooms. So when we are talking about open up the economy, opening up schools, parents were very, very concerned. This is not the only forum that we have participated in. We have participated in Mandarin forum, in English-speaking forum, where we in touch with the community members. One of the major concern was, what do we do when the schools open, when our children are going back to school? Not only are parents concerned, of course, about the virus itself, right? But they are very concerned about the virus of racism. So, in order to do that, I believe that we should not be leaving up to the school, to talk about racism and to prepare our children about racism. I think, discussion should start at home and talking about Chinese Canadian history. Chinese have started coming to Canada in 1850s, and of course we all know that the laborers from China built the Canadian Pacific Railway, particularly the most dangerous part through the Rockies. Many Chinese labor died, sacrificed themselves, and then being abandoned by Canada after the railway was built. And that's why we have the exclusion. We have the head tax started in 1885 with $50, and then kept increasing to 1923, it was $500. And all those measures initiated by our founding fathers, Sir John A. Macdonald, was basically because they were concerned that Chinese would make Canada a dirty place, right? We would then breed this mongrel, the purebred, the Aryan purebred will be invaded by this inferior race Chinese. And that was documented in our history. And so I think we should start discussion at home, because unfortunately curriculum in our school system still do not have a full recognition of this very racist history, and do not speak about the contributions of Chinese labor to Canada, and contributions, of course, of Chinese Canadians through the years to Canada. So I think it's important that parents start engaging, and then so we can build, strengthen and develop the development of Chinese Canadian identity, right? And I'm sure one of the mission of Vision Youth, is to enhance and develop Chinese Canadian youth, their strong identity and their confidence in themselves. And we should also talk about racism, not only racism experienced by Chinese Canadians, but racism experienced by Blacks, by Indigenous communities, and by other racialized communities. That's why we always start now with the land acknowledgement, because this is a colony. We are living in a colony. We have colonized the Indigenous communities. We are settlers. And we should be thankful to be part of that. They allow us in while they being slaughtered, while they are being prosecuted, executed, and really suffered tremendously, the Indigenous communities. So I think it is important for us to put that all in context and talk about the varied experiences of different racialized groups. And the Black Lives Matter, as it is happening now across the globe, provide us with a good opportunity to engage our children in those discussions about slavery, about the continued, racist attitudes towards Blacks, including the stereotypes that Chinese Canadians have towards Black Canadians. So of course we need to prepare children about what is pandemic, why are we here, why are we being locked down, and why is the school, when they go back to school, it's a different reality. They will be physically distanced, they will have various ways to keep the children safe from the virus, but at the same time, we need to prepare the children about potential racist incidents. So it's basically, as child psychologists will always say, we need to build children's confidence in themselves, their self-esteem, and their identity, and prepare them in the eventual case that there may be cases or they may encounter incidents. So it's also important that we start our communications with school. I'm sure school will reach out to parents and start talking about what are we going to do, right? How are we going to protect your children? But parents should also ask them, you are also responsible for protecting my children, not just from the virus, but from racist attacks. And those racist attacks can come in many forms. Could be in name callings, could be in isolation, could be in shunning, could be in many or physical assaults. And all those should be discussed and should be communicated. And I think parents should reach out to schools and ask them, what measures are you taking to prevent that from happening? York Region School Board, I just recently participated in a consultation with York Region School Board. They are developing tools to equip their educators to address anti-Asian racism. So York Region, and I'm sure that is not the only school board that is doing this kind of work. Other school boards are probably also engaging in similar work. And so we have the responsibility to find out what are their policies. What are their policies on bullying? What are the policies on equity, anti-racism, and inclusion? So what if the children do experience racist attacks? And I think the key thing is, once we prepare the children, hopefully they can help identify them and they are willing to speak up. Because the critical thing, I'm sure, when we build our trust and rapport with young kids, is that you want them to open up to you when they run into problems, when they encounter difficulties. So I'm sure parents, who are on this, and I'm sure your circle beyond, that's what you want, right? Is to build that trust and confidence with, so that the children will come to you when they are in trouble because they trust that you will help them. And so when they come to you, I hope that you will not, dismiss them, because sometimes, parents can easily say, oh, let's just, it's okay. Or you can say, oh, they're being stupid. Let's just ignore them. I don't think we should. We should not let these go. Because it is not just to help our own children. We are also creating a safe environment, an anti-racist environment for the whole school and for the whole classroom. So it is important for us to speak up. So talk to the school immediately when you have your children, and you should, of course, seek their consent and then find ways so that they will be with you throughout this journey of finding the best way to resolve this to their satisfaction as well, right? So there are some tips, and I'm sure you can find them online too. But the critical thing is safety. Safety should always be first. And safety, not only, of course, the children who are being targeted, but the bystanders too. So, you can try. It depends also on the children, on the situation, that tell them to stop. Like if something happened, tell them just to stop. This is not right. Stop it. And immediately seek help or get somebody's attention right away. Get help and get the adults' attention, get the teachers in. Or distract the person. Oh, you dropped something, or, and run and go talk to the teacher. So there are, of course, many ways to get the children. Of course, you can do role play, you can practice with them, and there are also more sort of researched, bystander type of tips online now. There are the 5 Ds, right? But again, the critical message is safety. So you can distract. Delegate means you get help. You document. That means you report it. Report it afterwards, or and delay. You can delay because that is not something that may not be the wrong thing, so that you can think about it. You can sort it through. You can that you stay calm. Then you were prepared to encounter this. So that's a strategy too. And direct intervention for bystander is actually, again, the last resort. So I think it is very important for us to discuss with our children about potential ways to address them, and also if they are witnesses, because children may not be directly involved, but they witness something happen in school against their own friends or against other kids. And it's important that we prepare children for all types of scenarios. And I think the critical message is that we are all in this together, right? And the children should feel comfortable to speak to you as parent, to speak to the teacher, and also to feel comfortable and have the understanding that we are doing this so that you will not be suffering anymore, nor will your fellow friends and classmates and and the whole school. You don't want this to happen to any of your other friends. So I think those messages should be reinforced. And so CCNC actually has been working on a number of projects now, as I mentioned, the online tool. We also have resources online that we are continuing to build and develop. We have a Face Race campaign, which talks about what racism feels like, the faces of racism, the stories of COVID-19, and we talk about community resilience, because I think it is important ultimately to engage the communities to fight, to combat racism. And so as part of this community resilience, we are developing tools for children and guardians. And we have two young but powerful and very strong educators, very grounded in anti-racism work and equity work, who are developing these tools for us. And we also are going to launch very shortly a Stop the Spread of Racism social media campaign. And then we also are invited to work with the City of Toronto on their social media campaign to combat anti-Asian racism, particularly anti-East Asian racism, given what is happening now in the pandemic. And we also are partnered with a project, and so is Vision Youth, called Protect Research. And they also, if you go to Protect, there's tons of resources on their website. It is a project to support, to offer mental health support. They've done tremendous amount of work on anti-stigmatization, mental health counseling. They even have chat room. They also have other resources to talk about, this pandemic and how community groups are addressing them. And CCNC very much are working with them. And so my last slide is actually a plea, because we are doing this focus group, these tools for children and guardians. So we are going to host a focus group, some focus group discussion with parents and those and guardians. That it will be in English, Mandarin, and Cantonese, like 3 sessions. One in English, one in Mandarin, one in Cantonese. We also are going to have children from the age of grade 3 to 8 to have discussions as well, because we want to hear directly from the consumers, from the target audience, so that our tools would be relevant and would resonate with the community. So I hope you will be interested in joining our focus group, and I have left our email address there. If you're interested, we can forward a lot more information to you with the focus group, with the consent form, with the flyer, with the with a lot of more details about this research project. So I'm going to stop here, and I'll be very happy to have a discussion through question and answer.
Thank you, Amy. Actually, the W5 incident is the first time that I joined anybody on the street. So it is very meaningful to us in those days that we all came out to protest about the social justice, the discrimination against our Chinese Canadian. So, Amy is still around, right, Amy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So you want to entertain question now, or you want to wait till later?
I'm fine either way.
So maybe the time right now is 35. So maybe we have all the presentation first, and then we will answer questions. Okay. Yep. So the next topic is how the Canadian federal government help our students during the COVID-19. So Youmy, can you take it away?
Thank you so much. Thank you. My name is Yumi. I work with my colleagues Haroon and Elizabeth, who are also on the line. I work at Minister Ng's office. She is the MP for Markham Thornhill, as many of you know, and also the Federal Minister for Small Business, Export Promotion, and International Trade. So super happy to be here today. Super glad that we can take a moment and just, do some information sharing. But before we get into that, I just want to say, Eric, thank you for putting this forum together and for inviting us, and, Vision Youth Organization team. Thanks everyone for doing this. And also Amy, like, what a tough act to follow. Super informative and important topic that I know we want to talk about and, discuss. And I'm also looking to learning more from Franco later about DotDotFire. So Eric kind of reached out to our team and asked us to, just share more information about the supports out there for students and youth during what is a very difficult time for everybody. So that's what I'm going to do today. I speak Mandarin. I also have colleagues on the line who speak both Mandarin and Cantonese. So if folks have questions, don't hesitate to if you want to ask them in language, that's totally fine with us. So COVID-19, it's obviously a very difficult time for everybody, but especially for our youth. And youth and students in our community, they're very important to the diversity and the diversity of thoughts and opinions and actions, but also to our future. The students who are in universities and colleges across Canada today, they're really essential to the economic success of our country in the future. So we know that during this time, a lot of youth are, worried about their family, their friends, but also about themselves. How are they gonna get summer employment? How are they going to, pay for tuition in the fall? How are they going to support themselves as school gets interrupted and their classes are interrupted? So I just want to dive into some of the measures that our government announced over the past few months, it's totaling an investment of approximately $9 billion so far as part of our economic response plan to COVID-19. And we hope that these measures were really designed to kind of help students get through this difficult period, as well as put our country in a good place when it comes to economic recovery and to bounce back from this period. So with that in mind, just going to go through some of them. At the same time, if anyone has any questions about anything that's said today or need help kind of navigating the supports, or you're trying to find information that you can't find, our office is always here to answer questions. I'm going to leave our contact information in the chat box so that people can get in touch with us. But you can always email mary.ng@parle.gc.ca or call 905-479-8100 for any sort of conversation or help. So to get into it, in the very beginning, as COVID-19, as the situation was evolving, one of the first things our government did was announce 10,000 new jobs through the Canada Summer Job Program. This is an existing program that in 2019 supplied about 70,000 jobs. And so we added 10,000 jobs to that, as well as increased the wage subsidy in that program, so that private and public sector employees can subsidize up to 100% of the employees' wages through this program. The program was also extended for employment until February 28th of 2021, so that employers can continue to hire folks for a longer period of time, as well as allow employers to adapt their project and job activities to support essential services and also hire folks on a part-time basis. So at the end of the day, it's really about expanding this program so that it can be utilized in more efficient ways, effective ways that could not only support youth who are looking for employment, but also, our general action towards combating COVID-19 in general. At the same time, the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, which is a program we developed to support businesses through this difficult time, is helping more businesses keep their employees on payroll throughout the coming months, which includes a lot of students, a lot of part-time employees, a lot of youth. At the same time, the government also took action to provide a 6-month interest-free moratorium on Canada's student loans from March 30th to September 30th of this year. So this means during those 6 months, those who have taken loans out, your loan payments and interest were suspended to kind of take off that financial pressure for many students or recent graduates. The new Canada Emergency Student Benefit announced was also in a support that helps students and recent graduates who were not receiving CERB or were not eligible for CERB. The Canada Emergency Student Benefit is a monthly benefit that provides $1,250 as a base payment, as well as for those who have dependents or have a disability, they may be eligible for an additional $750 per month. So to date, this has already provided over $2 billion in assistance to over 660,000 students across the country, as well as recent graduates. So just another way to, help those who are not finding employment right now at the moment. On the other hand, the new Canada Student Service Grant provides up to $5,000 for post-secondary students and recent graduates who want to support their communities at this time and volunteer their time this summer. So this is a program that will run until October 31st, and folks can access, find volunteer opportunities, or nonprofit organizations who are looking for volunteers can also find those who want to help at this new platform called canada.ca/I-want-to-help. And so this is another opportunity for folks to, be engaged in their communities and also offer the support that many of us are looking for. So all these supports will help young Canadians, find ways to financially, in their communities, find a way to get through this crisis. And again, like I said earlier, really is a way to make sure that Canada's economy is in a good place when we start to bounce back from this crisis. I know Eric also earlier mentioned supports for international students. Obviously, international students are a huge part of our country, in terms of economically, but also diversity. And so many of them, including so many of my personal friends who came to Canada as international students, they become Canadian citizens in the future and contribute greatly to our communities across the country. So we wanted to make sure that during this time, when so many international students are facing, interruptions in their studies and uncertainty, IRCC Canada, Immigration Canada, released a number of measures to make sure that we are providing the maximum level of flexibility so that people, can continue their studies throughout the summer into the fall as things evolve. So this is why, just to go through a few of them for awareness. For international students who have a valid study permit already, or those who had a study permit on or before March 18th, if you are coming into Canada for essential travel purposes and have a plan to quarantine for 14 days, you are exempt from the travel restrictions that is placed on the Canadian border right now. For those students who, after March, who were forced to study online, who were, had to reduce their studies to part-time or had to take a break from their studies completely, either through, because their schools weren't able to facilitate online learning environments, for example. These students, as a result of restrictions on classroom learning, are allowed to continue working on or off campus as long as their study permit allows it. So it's a way to make sure, these international students continue to be able to financially support themselves. At the same time, if you're already in Canada, you won't lose your eligibility for a post-graduation work permit or PGWTP. If you had already completed more than 50% of your program online, reduce your studies to part-time or take a break. Again, this was one of the earliest problems that came up, that international students were worried about, 2-3 years down the road, how this crisis is going to impact their post-graduation work permit and their future in this country. And it's a reassurance so that people won't be losing their eligibility for that. Again, until August 31st, so end of next month, international students who are taking classes in an academic session this summer are permitted to work more than 20 hours a week off campus if they are employed in an essential service or function. For students beginning a new program in the 2020 spring, summer, or fall semesters, they can begin their for those semesters, they can begin their classes online from abroad without affecting their eligibility for post-graduation work permit, provided that they are able to complete at least 50% of the program in Canada. Again, these students also won't have time deducted from the length of their PGWP for studies completed outside of Canada until the end of 2020. At the same time, for international students who are beginning a new program online this fall, so this upcoming semester, for those who are starting their studies online with a Canadian learning institution, as long as they have completed their application online, they are being provided priority study permit processing for students to ensure that their permits are processed as quickly as possible, so as little interruption as possible is happening to their studies. IRCC is allowing students to count the time spent pursuing their studies online abroad towards their eligibility for a post-graduation work permit if they have submitted a study permit application and if at least 50% of the program will be completed in Canada in the future. At the same time, providing reassurances to international students who cannot submit all the documentation needed to complete processing of their applications, who choose to pursue programs through distance learning by implementing a temporary two-stage approval process. So I know that was a lot of kind of legal terms and regulations, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that the international students who have been, willing to move to a foreign country and explore their studies and connect with new people, we want to make sure that they feel that their future is certain and that we are providing as much flexibility as possible. So for any of these supports and for any new information, folks can always go to canada.ca/COVID-19 or get in touch with our office for more information. Again, I put our information in the chat box if you want to send us an email or call us. But at the end of the day, I think the key message here really is that, as the situation evolves, as in the coming weeks and months, our government is really closely following the situation, making sure that youth are supported, international students are supported, and I'm sure our response will always adapt and evolve as the situation does. And your feedback is very much valued as well, and we look forward to kind of hearing from everybody and making sure that our programs are adequately supporting people through this very difficult time. So that was a lot of me talking. Again, really appreciate taking the opportunity to kind of share some of these with everybody, and I'm open to any questions people might have.
Or maybe we answer it later.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, now it's 2:48, so I'd like to pass it to Franco, and then at the end probably we still have probably 15 minutes for the Q&A. Franco,
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Youmy.
And Youmy, for your sharing. First of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to Eric for providing us with this great opportunity. It's a hello from Hong Kong from us. It's almost 3 in the morning, but I'm very excited. I was too excited to go to sleep, so I stayed up the entire night, and I was really looking forward to share our views on online learning, remote learning, and the approach that we DotDotFire have taken to tackle the lack of motivation in online classes and stuff like that. So Amy, thank you very much for your sharing about the racial discrimination. It is not an easy task. I understand that, even though I'm not a Canadian, but I have studied in the United States, and I have seen or experienced firsthand of this racial discrimination problem. So thank you very much for trying to tackle this. Youmy, thank you for sharing about how your government and your colleagues are trying to help your citizens during this difficult time. It's also very challenging. Everyone's, a lot of people are struggling during this period, and they really need a lot of help. So thank you for sharing as well. So let me start off with a little bit of an introduction of myself and DotDotFire. So first of all, I'm Franco. I am the Chief Development Officer of DotDotFire. DotDotFire is a startup from Hong Kong, and we originated from Hong Kong, but we've expanded our scope to the United States as well recently. So we have operations in both Hong Kong and in the United States, and with the current COVID situation, we are expanding e-learning to the world. So our work has been previously featured on the USA Today network and other media as well. So first of all, I would like to talk about the COVID situation and how it affects learning and e-learning. So with the school, we don't know when schools will restart. So it is likely that e-learning and e-classes will become a regular feature in the foreseeable future. And I have gathered some observations and struggles from teachers, students, and parents about the current e-learning form or mode. So first of all, some students are online, but they are disengaged because they are either distracted or they're focusing on something else. And we have the second case where some students are not online, or they're not joining the online classes. They're not participating at all. And this is becoming a bigger problem by the day. So my point here is students are not, they're disengaged from online classes is because there's a lack of motivation. And motivation is the one key term that I like everyone to be able to take away from my presentation today. So this is a key element in learning, in facilitating learning, and because with motivation comes engagement, with motivation comes the interest in, wanting to know more, right? So let me try and ask you a question. So what motivated you, the audience, all of you, to learn when you were 13 in math class? All right. Well, I can think of a few reasons, right? Maybe one, if you're not paying attention, you might get in trouble, right? That's from the teacher. And maybe two, because your friends are there, so that you're participating because all your peers, your friends are there, so that gives you an inherent motivation to be there, right? And lastly, and that this might be the biggest reason, is because you're stuck, right? You don't have any alternative. You have to go to school. That's kind of your job as a kid, right? And you're stuck there, and you don't really have a choice. And that's the reality of the e-classroom, right? That was the reality of the physical classroom, and it's also the reality of the e-classroom. because a Zoom classroom has none of these, the previous mentioned external factors, right? You don't have friends who are physically there with you. Maybe the teacher is not there to oversee or just to manage the classroom discipline. And you don't really have to be there. You're at home and you have many more options, right? You have alternatives. So the point is, the content of the lesson has to be engaging enough to motivate you, the learner, right? So this has, I've talked to some teachers, educators, and their struggles during this COVID and online learning situation is that suddenly the educators, they realize that, oh, I have to be, I have to change my role, right? Instead of me just talking, I have to transform into some kind of a YouTuber, right? I have to be some sort of an entertainer to keep everybody engaged for the entire period of my class. It's kind of like becoming a TV host, right? You have to keep people entertained so that they won't change channels. And that's the reality of the e-classroom. So, so my next question is, what's keeping you here, right? What is your motivation to be here today on this live chat? Probably because you sign up to learn about racial discrimination during COVID. You sign up to learn about the government's support for you. And perhaps you sign up to learn more about remote learning, right? That's your motivation. That's what's keeping you here. And so again, my main theme today is about motivation, right? And perhaps the lack of it, or the struggles of keeping kids motivated during an online class. So let me kind of trace back to what we're doing, or what DotDotFire has done during this COVID situation, right? So as a data point, we've successfully kept multiple classes of 10-year-olds, right, fully engaged online for over an hour, right, for multiple times. And that is kind of a sign that we've done something right to keep them engaged and motivated. And from that, they took away a lot of learning. So what is our secret sauce, right? And that is games, right? Why games, right? Kids today, they're growing up in an overstimulating internet age, right? So a lot of things are competing for their motivation and their attention. Things like YouTube videos, or addictive mobile games, Snapchat, Instagram, social media, all kinds of stuff, right? They're competing for the kids' time and attention. So the main reason why we are using games, or why we're promoting, we believe we are a pioneer in gaming for education. And we're using it because we believe a game is the perfect medium for motivation, right? For two reasons. One, it is the language of the current generation. Virtually all kids nowadays, they have, or they continuously play games, either on their phones, their tablets, computers, right? And secondly, games can be a common language between grown-ups and children, right? So we have seen in some of our client schools, teachers, they embrace our games and they play the games with their children, with their students, right? So, and then that really kind of changed the classroom's chemistry, right? So students suddenly, well, they think that the teachers are kind of boring, old-fashioned, that kind of stuff. But with the game as a medium for them to connect, students, they think the teachers, well, they're quite cool, right? They're modern. They know how they're playing the stuff that we're playing. So that's a new way to connect different generations. So that's the reason why we pick games as a medium for motivation. So I've done a lot of talking. So now I'm going to show you a testimonial video from one of our client schools, and to show how we put motivation in action. So let me share my screen with you. Yeah, and please let me know if the audio is okay.
Why is it at the mountain top?
From the ad game that we use during the STEM week, we can see how they cater the differences of the children. They allow them to make choice. They allow them to work at their own pace. And it also gives a chance for our students that the higher ability one can help those who may need some more time. And then they learn from the conversation. They learn from the cooperation.
So I think it was a good opportunity for not only for us, but also for the students to get really excited, just a lot of energy in the material, and for them to get engaged with something like aviation science that a lot of students can get into. And I've had students come up to me and say that they really want to keep learning more about it.
The most fun part was actually today, because we had an airplane race and we had determination in each other, and that is the greatest type of teamwork that I can ever think of.
We can get to know how to get new strategies to get the plane flying really fast, really far away. And also, when we're building the launcher, we can also get to use teamwork, and then we can build ourselves the machine without doing anything wrong.
Yeah, so that was a short clip of what we've done in many of our schools with our STEM program. So to give you a context of what kind of programs that we offer, first of all, we have the STEM program, and then we are very close to releasing our second game, which is a financial literacy game. And I'll talk more about that later. And then we have a math game, which we're developing, but it's still in the pipeline, right? So in the video, you saw our games, right? Very motivating, and kids are extremely engaged because that's their language, right? But in order to make a successful ed game, which is what we call educational video game, right? We merge real game, what we call real games, with real learning. So what is a real game, right? It is something that when kids see it, they know that it is fun. It's not like an electronic quiz or a computerized homework, because kids nowadays, they can immediately identify, okay, you're trying to give me a piece of homework which is wrapped in kind of a game, type of scenario. So they know it. They know what's good and they know what's bad. So the DotDotFire team, we're gamers as well. So we grew up kind of playing a lot of games as well. So we try to merge, right, real games such as simulation, a lot of maybe some competition-based, racing-based games with actual learning points, right? With the STEM program, we used aviation as a theme, right? So a lot of engineering principles, some mathematics, we put all those together, and that's our STEM program. And another feature that we showed in the video was what I call an online to an offline engagement, right? So the first part, we showed how the video game motivated the class, right? And the second part was after class, they had this paper plane launcher, which is an electronic, as a motorized paper plane launcher built by us. And it was a design project, right? It is a continuation of their learning outside of class. It is an engagement, right? A continuation from what they've learned inside the video game online, right? And then offline, they took that part of the learning and then add some teamwork, add some design elements, and then they built their own paper plane launchers, and then they have a real world problem to solve, right? And then they have to do it in a scientific way. So that is our model. So to both have a very engaging and very entertaining game for everyone, and then inside we weave a lot of education points so that students don't find it boring, basically. They don't find it, oh, it's just another homework. And then after that, we have consolidation. We have facilitation from, in school, they have facilitation from the teachers, but outside of school, when we conduct our own workshops, we have our own facilitators. So it's a very complete solution. So during this COVID situation, we are transforming as well, right? So we're transforming from selling our products to schools to exploring how we can utilize the online learning environment that has suddenly presented itself, right? So we are currently making our STEM games and our STEM classes, what we call a DotDotFire lab, available online. And this is one of the things that we can offer to all of you today. And that is the online part, right? So what about the offline part? What about the paper plane launcher part? So we are replacing that, or we're transforming that into a design project, right? So we provide design project ideas and challenges for students who are participating, and they can conduct their own scientific experiments offline, which utilizing the same principles as they've done in game. So the game classes will conduct it online together with a lot of students, and then after that, offline, they can conduct their own design projects. So that is the first thing that we can offer during for a new way of remote learning. So it's not just Zoom classes, it's not just listening to the teachers, or maybe what we call to make everything electronic, to make the books electronic, to make the quizzes, the homework electronic. That is not the right way of engaging the students, and that is not providing enough motivation to keep the students wanting to learn, right? And that's the thing that is the main problem that we're trying to tackle. So, and the second news that I can offer is our newest game, the NeighborMood, right? It's called the NeighborMood, which is a wordplay on a neighborhood and a mood, right? A personal mood. So it is a financial literacy game. All right, so what that means is it teaches kids not to impulse buy, to be smart with money, to be a smart consumer, right? And it allows students to apply critical life skills such as decision making, such as some major career choices, right? Or major life decisions through a simulation game. So I don't know if any of you have heard of seen the game Sims, right? So in the game Sims, you get to play as your own character, right? You design your own character, and then you can do whatever you want, basically. But in the NeighborMood, it is kind of similar, right? You're living in a city, you playing as your own design character, but all the decisions in game, they revolve around your financial well-being. So apart from kids, this is a mobile game, by the way, so it's available on Android, on iOS, and also on iPads. And it is now in what we call beta testing phase. So it will be officially released in the coming months. And right now in the United States, we have a major testing program for high school and for university students. So this game, the NeighborMood, I can show you a few screenshots as well. Let me show you a few screens. So like this one, this is some of our in-game screens. So we have kind of a mock-up of an online banking app just to get kids kind of used to, what online banking can offer and what kind of traps or what kind of pitfalls there are to avoid, right? And this screen shows one of your neighbors, right? The game is called NeighborMood. So apart from your own financial health and your own financial well-being, you can also help other people to make decisions. They will come up to you and ask you, oh, what should I do when I have this problem? And you can either help them or guide them the wrong way. And whatever decision you make, that will push your story to whatever direction. Right. So I mentioned impulse buying. We have many purchasing opportunities, sales, flash sales. Where they may be true or they may be false sales. Right. That happens in real life, and we try to simulate those in our game as well. And kind of financial literacy news, right, and tips. For example, how to avoid scams, if you're fallen victim to a financial fraud, what should you do? So things like that, we've included in our game. So it is still in development, but it's very nearing the end, and we will release the game in the coming months. And you can play this game with your family, with anyone really, or anyone that you think that needs a little bit of help in terms of financial literacy. And my offer for all of you today is that we have an exclusive early access available to all of you for free. And I will include the method for joining and signing up in the chat later on. And also for the STEM games, if any of you are interested in wanting to learn more, you can email me directly. I'll add my contact information in the chat as well. So I would like to wrap up with one thought, is that remote learning may be unfamiliar or maybe challenging to parents or teachers or even students, right? But we believe the key is to find high quality education products to keep your kids motivated and engaged, right? Because even though the kids are not going to school, but if you look at it differently, it is an opportunity for kids to learn something that something that they've been wanting to learn for a long time, maybe something that they haven't been able to learn. So it is both a challenge and also an opportunity. So that's all I have to share. Thank you very much, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Franco. I think the audience can either ask question. You can just unmute yourself, or you can write in the chat box that we are happy to answer the question too. I think I have one question for Youmy. Like, assuming that now we have special program and allow the international student to stay longer and maybe being an immigrant as well.
Sorry? Sorry, just to clarify, you're asking if there are programs for international students to extend
to stay here in Canada, or like because of COVID-19? Like,
yeah, so you know, I'm not an expert from IRCC, but you know, international students who are already in Canada who have their study permits, you know, they are welcome to stay, obviously. If you're thinking about a specific individual or person who are trying to, you know, make the best decision about what they want to do, I invite you to kind of reach out to our office and we can look into it and connect with IRCC about it. Obviously, everyone's situation is a little bit different, but I think, you know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, the key consideration, I think, is making sure that those who had plans to study here or already are studying here, you know, their lives are there's as little interruption as possible to their lives. So that goes into the PGWP consideration, so that they can continue to study and, you know, get their PGWP as planned in the future and, you know, live in Canada.
Yeah, I understand that some students, they came here with the working holiday visa. So I'm not sure that is included as a student or like.
Yeah, working holiday student visas are work permits technically. So that might be slightly different, but I know a lot of youth do that. So it really depends on the situation. I can, you know, if you have a specific situation, I'm happy to look into it more. Our office is happy to look into it more. But you know, I know a lot of people are getting in touch with MP offices to try to kind of sort through their personal situation, so that they can figure out what their future in Canada looks like.
Great. So Amy, how we can join the consultation later on?
Thank you, Eric. So actually, we are in the process of preparing some flyers. We should have them, we are actually translating them this weekend as we speak. So hopefully by end of Monday, we should have all the promotional materials ready, and I will forward them to you, Eric. Hopefully you can also distribute through your network. And if at any time, if any of the participants today are interested to learn more, please contact national@ccncsj.ca. I will put it on the chat line so that you can directly contact our program coordinator, Victoria, to get more information as well. Thank you. I just want to I should acknowledge the project is funded by Digital Contributions Program of Canadian Heritage. I should acknowledge our funder for their support.
That's good.
Areas here from the
Actually, I like to thank Amy for acknowledging the land claim as well. Like I missed that one, so thank you for covering up. So is there any question from the chat box? So it's okay. So that's one for Amy. My daughter is new to Canada from Hong Kong. What is what we as parents talk to her if she encounter racial discrimination?
So it is particularly challenging for a newcomer. In fact, on our call with the Mandarin-speaking community, some of them are newcomers, very new to the country, and they are witnessing or experiencing very unfortunate and unfortunate and also blatantly unabashed racist incidents. So I would encourage first of all, to engage your children in talking about, Canada, so that they would want to learn more about this new home, our history, our country, and the people who make up Canada, right? So that would be a great topic to discuss and learn more about our history. As I said, Chinese Canadian history, as well as, of course, history of the indigenous communities as we settlers, coming in, and all that. So I think to engage them, so that, like Franco said, if there are ways to play games with the kids, and find out more, that would be great. And I don't know whether DotDotFire has any games that would try to motivate children to learn about history. Maybe somewhere down the road you would, But I think discussion, open up, and because this is our new home, this is the new home to your daughter and to you. So I think it's great just to learn more. And unfortunately, there are times that we may run into situations such as racist attacks and incidents. And as I said, prepare them, talk to them, and seek out for help, right? Find out what the school is doing. What do they do? What's the policy and procedure in place? Who would be the best resource in school to handle this situation? Do they have counseling support for children who have encountered these situations? So talk to the school, find out more, and then help the children, so if there are any times, any moment that they feel that they are, uncomfortable, they should think of their safety first and then speak up, go to the adult, the teacher, and go to you for help. So hopefully, I know there's no, sort of like perfect way to handle. But I think the critical thing is to start the conversation, start preparing, talking about this new country that you have chosen for you and your children. And hopefully, through times that the country would be better, would be truly being.
Yeah. Actually, to add on to Amy's answer, I think the symptom for the racial discrimination probably will be similar to a bullying victim. Like he or she probably will be withdrawn, or will not be talking that much, or don't want to go to school or something like that. So this is probably some early sign for notice any problem in school. It's also quite general too. And when we talk about the Chinese Canadian history, I really like people to visit Barkerville. This is somewhere near Williams Lake in British Columbia. They have one of the earliest Chinatown. It's around 1856 that they developed the Chinatown in Barkerville. And in those days, like there's a lot more discrimination. Like the Chinese gold digger has to walk from Vancouver to Barkerville, and it is almost I think 500 kilometers. So and then the white man can ride a horse to it to go to dig gold there, but the Chinese had to walk all the way, especially in the winter. Actually, I was told that there's a lot of people cannot make it through like to reach their destination. So there's a lot more discrimination that we should learn about. So any more question or
Yeah, Eric, thank you. Actually, I should have mentioned that. And I am a social worker by training, even though I'm not a very good one. But I just want to mention that if you notice any change in the behavior or the mood of your children, right? And that's why I said that to cultivate this trust and relationship with your children, it's a lifetime thing, you know. But you know, when you're witnessing some changes, particularly whenever you raise the topic of school, you know, of teachers or friends in school, and they avoid and they try not to engage you, or you know, then any change should I would hope that that the parents would, of course, respect the space of the children. You know, don't force them, don't try to put even more pressure on them. However, though, you know, to observe those changes and then look for opportunities to engage them, to find out, and hopefully they would open up to you. Mm-hmm.
So we still have 4 more minutes. So any of the speaker want to have any follow-up on your presentation? Youmy, anything to add?
No, I think I said my piece. I just want to say thank you again for having this forum. It was really interesting to just hear about all the things going on in the community. And obviously, you know, we just want to be there to be able to support in the ways we can. So thank you again, really, truly, for giving us the opportunity to share.
Yeah, we thank Mary Ng's office to join us as well today.
Anytime, anytime.
Yeah. Hi, Franco. Any points that you want to add?
Not in particular, but Amy, you mentioned maybe in the future we can have a game that is about history. That's a very interesting topic. And I forgot to mention, for the NeighborMood, we deliberately designed the game so that we don't assign any genders or race, and that is from day one. That is our principle. So you can be a person of any color, any gender. You know, you can have whatever hairstyle or you can dress up however you want, right? So we have that freedom, and we respect everyone's decision in the game, and that is built in to our game.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, any final words?
No, I think that's great. Thanks so much for inviting us. And if you have any questions, we'll be very happy to assist you with. Thanks so much.
Okay, Elizabeth can speak Cantonese, Mandarin, and English, right?
Yes, that's correct. And I also speak Spanish.
Wow.
If you will speak Spanish.
I don't think we have Spanish audience here. But, Amy, any final words?
Oh, I just also want to thank you. I learned a lot today, and again, it's a very it's definitely a topic that is sort of like on the top of the head mind of all the parents. And so I want to thank you, Eric and Vision Youth, for organizing, and I want to thank my fellow speakers for sharing such helpful resources and advice, as well as the participants for spending such a beautiful Saturday in Toronto with us, and I look forward to further collaboration and discussion. As I also added one more resource, which is www.roadtojustice.ca, which is a website with really good Chinese Canadian history materials and information. So thank you again. I want to wish all of you a beautiful afternoon, and see you in the future. So.
Yeah, actually, I have one final words that I would like to urge our visionaries in watching this show, maybe to work on something that we just talked about, like the racial discrimination, or maybe net more youth to aware of the COVID-19, because I think currently the number is going up again. It seems a lot of the young people under 40, they are not really respecting the social distancing. And if our visionary can come up with a project to raise awareness, I think it would be great for us. And also, I'd like to thank all the speakers today. And we have recorded the the whole meeting. So we will put it onto our YouTube channel, and actually we probably have a lot of people watching it live on our Facebook as well. So so I don't want to spend more time to waste your beautiful afternoon. So thank you very much for joining us today, and all the audience as well. So so let me know that if you want to help out with all this thing, or try out the DotDotFire games and like anything, just send me a text or email. Okay. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
So